Good evening. I'm calling the Camarillo Planning Commission regular meeting of Tuesday, June 6th to order. And welcome to all of those that are here and those of you that are watching at home. So first of all, we will go to roll call.
Commissioner Davidson. Present. Commissioner Murphy.
Here.
Vice Chair Edsel.
Here.
Chair Vandermeulen.
Here. Thank you. And next Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Vice Commissioner Mr. Edsel.
Please put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so. Next, we will go on to the consent items, but before we get to those, could we have the review from the Architectural Committee on the Rexford Industrial Public Art?
Yes, we reviewed the public art, which is depicted over there on the left side. It's a two-piece ceramic tile, very large, I can't remember the dimensions, art piece, but it evokes the natural and history of Camarillo, and it will be put together by a community. There will be community workshops, and so various members of the community will be helping the artist put it together, and so we think it's beautiful, and we recommend to the Planning Commission approval of the artwork.
Thank you. Do we need to?
Okay, with that, I would make a motion to approve the consent calendar. If that's the
I'll
appropriate
second.
time.
Okay, please vote. And that's all in favor. Thank you. Another comment I'd kind of like to make on that, the architectural. If I remember right, the artists are local as far as from the art school in Camarillo.
Studio Channel Islands,
Yeah,
that's
Channel
right.
Islands Art School. And part of that's going to be individual tiles, I believe. You know, through the picture with, I think the bottom part's going to be painted, but the top part's all individual little tiles. So there's going to be a lot of work that goes into that this summer. It should be really nice when it's done. Next, we go on to public comments. Are there any public comments not related to items that are on the agenda? Do we have any cards or emails? Okay. Oh. This has to do, Planning Commission, not on the agenda, permits. The subject is permits, position oppose, comment is they lied to me. And this was presented from a Camarillo resident. Do we need their name? Okay. And that's all it says. So then with that, there are no more public comments. Then we will go on to our public hearings. And we will go to item D, the Village Greens Market. And with this, I'll open public hearings on this. Oh, excuse me, staff presentation first, thank you. Put my list up here.
So staff will make a presentation on this, and the staff presenter is Paul McClaren, our senior planner.
What was that? I didn't understand what your statement was, I'm sorry.
Oh, Paul McClaren, our senior planner,
Oh,
will be
okay.
making the presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Vandermeulen, Commissioners. Tonight I'm presenting CUP 371M1, 795 Camarillo Springs Road, which is Village Greens Market. The request is from the applicant George Askar, the owner of Village Greens Market Incorporated, and they are requesting a modification of a previously approved conditional use permit, CUP 371, related to the off-sale of alcoholic beverages. The project is located over in the Camarillo Springs area. It is zoned commercial plan development, and the land use designation is commercial. This is a strip mall that is at the corner of Ridgeview Street and Camarillo Springs Road. To the east of the project is residential HOA units. To the sort of northeast of the project is a professional office zone. To the south is an RPD 10 zone, another HOA area, and to the west is an RE zone, which is actually the golf course. This is just one unit of, I believe, 7 in that shopping center. So this is Suite F. This business has been located at this location for 21 years. In March of 2016, the Planning Commission approved CUP 371, which was required because when the market first opened, there was not a requirement for a CUP for alcoholic sales. In around 2014, the ordinance was changed requiring CUPs for alcohol off sales. So when they decided they wanted to go from just beer and wine to beer, wine, and distilled spirits and go from a Type 20 ABC license to a Type 21, they were required at that point to get a CUP. That CUP approved 38% of the shelving for alcohol sales and 10% of the gross area of the market. There was also an 8 square foot area behind the counter that was going to be for the distilled alcohol. The stuff that was on the floor would be beer and wine. This is the project site. So, you know, it's a nice shopping center, clean, well kept. The existing site plan from the original CUP had on the top of the page here, this are cooler areas, and this is where they had beer and wine stored. And then they had unchilled wines over here on the bottom left. And then behind, this is their public counter. Behind that counter, they had a locked container that was about 8 square feet where they kept the distilled alcohol. What they're proposing is that they want to do some remodeling, and they want to make this area sundries. They want to make this a dry or a unchilled wine area, another unchilled wine area over here. A actual walk-in refrigerator existed, but now they want it to be to where there's shelving for the public to go in and get microbrews. This area here would be just your regular beer, cold beer, and wine. And then the distilled spirits is now 25 square feet, but still behind the counter, only accessible to the store owners and the people working the counter. There are existing ABC licenses. There's the Camarillo Springs Golf Course, of course. Then there is the local, which is right next door. And then there's also Hidden Cafe, which also has a beer and wine permit. The project was reviewed in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, the state guidelines, as well as the city's environmental guidelines, and determined to be a Class 1 exemption because it's an existing facility, not proposing any alterations to the use or layout of the interior of the suite within an existing building, so no additional review is necessary. I'm sorry, I need to go back because I forgot to cover something quickly. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that what they're actually proposing is over here on the side is that they went from 119 square feet of space to about 196 square feet for alcohol. They also have 18% instead of 10% of the gross floor area and 48% instead of 38% of the total shelf space. So it's about an 8% increase in gross floor area, a 10% increase in sellable products, and about 80 square feet of, or 60 square feet, no, 80 square feet of floor space, or of the total square footage. And so with that, the recommended action is that you find the modification of CUP 371 to be categorically exempt and adopt a resolution approving the CUP 371 Modification 1 to Village Greens Market. And if you do approve it, then the action of the Planning Commission is final unless appealed within 10 days. And that ends my presentation on this subject.
Thank you. Do we have questions to staff? Okay,
I don't either, yeah.
you don't either? And it looked like on the descriptions of the interior, you had what was originally approved and what they're proposing, but you don't have a layout of what is currently there?
So this actually was a code case. So they actually did set up this already, and we're trying to get them now in compliance by the CUP. But if you guys were not to approve this, they would have to go back to the original layout. And this was actually there, since this became an issue with code compliance in 2019, where a code case was opened. At that time, it was a different owner. That owner then started the CUP process, but then never followed up on any of it, and then the pandemic began, and in the process of the pandemic, the original owner sold the property to the new owner, and then, so the new owner kind of inherited the situation, and so we're just working with them to try to bring this into compliance with the proposed CUP.
Okay, because it's a little, I think there was one more regular, non-alcoholic set of shelves, but still had the same ones where the wine is, unless, I can't remember if there were 2 or 3 when I saw it, but it looked fairly similar, today as to what.
I've been out there and I looked through, and this is the floor plan that exists today, what they're
Okay.
proposing.
Okay. All right. That's why I was a little confused.
Right,
Thank you.
yes.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, then with that, we can open the public hearing, and do we have any comments or some questions, concerns from the staff or applicant? Excuse me, no. And no cards at all. Okay, so there's no public hearing on this. So then we're back to, close public hearing, thank you. Open it and close it. And, because I know that took care of mine. So then we can go to reading of if we have no other questions for staff? Or comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, and it's good they'll be in compliance with the existing use, and I agree it's a clean center over there, and I think the neighbors really appreciate it, so I think this is, I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Well, now that know that it's more like what I was actually looking at, we're not changing it from what I saw, that makes a little clearer. So, yeah, I would be in favor of approving that. So with that, we could,
I think Tom has that.
Yeah, not much to add to that. Looking at the overall percentage of floor space dedicated to the alcohol sales, I don't know how the Village of the Park and Springville markets that are similar to this one compare, but it seems that they have perhaps more than 50%. So I don't have any issues with this.
And
I-
I'd make a motion or call for a resolution?
let me, just kind of one comment to
Oh, I'm
this.
sorry.
Because I know I've been in the one at Village at the Park, and to me, this one seems like it actually offers a little bit more non-alcoholic food and choices in it than what I've seen at the one at Village at the Park, unless somebody's seen anything different, but,
That's good. That's the point I was trying to make. You just said it a little better than I did.
okay. All right, thank you. All right,
Call for resolution? Okay.
Resolution number PC 2023-15, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo approving a request by Village Greens Market for a modification to conditional use permit 371 related to the off-sale of alcoholic beverages.
I'll make a motion to waive further reading and vote for adoption.
I'll second.
Please vote. And that passes. Thank you. Then we'll move on to item E for the Dish Wireless. And do we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Paul McClaren, our senior planner, will make this presentation also.
Thank you.
Again, good evening. This next presentation will be on CUP 421, which is located at 740 Ventura Boulevard. It is a new stealth wireless facility. The request is from Jerry Ambrose, who is with the Yukon Group, and it is on behalf of Dish Wireless. And it is a request for a conditional use permit for an installation and operation of a new stealth wireless facility. The location is at the Camarillo Premium Outlets, as shown on the picture here. This is a commercial plan development. The general plan designates this as commercial. The existing site would be above the Tommy Hilfiger store in the outlets. And this is a view from the outlets parking lot looking to the southeast. The proposed facility is going to be a concealed cupola that's 14 feet 2 inches taller than the existing roofline, which the existing building is 46 feet 9 inches. So the total height of this building will be 53 feet and 2 inches when it is built. In June 2022, the Planning Commission did also approve an almost exactly similar CUP 413, which is above the Banana Republic store. So it's almost the exact same thing, but that one was, I believe, for AT&T, and this one is going to be for Dish Wireless. Construction has not begun on that facility, but I do believe they're in plan check. So again, this is where the Tommy Bahamas is at, or the Tommy Hilfiger is at. So the existing cupola, they would take the roof off of the existing cupola, build a new cupola, and that would become the equipment enclosure. So these are the elevations from both the north and the south. On the north elevation, which is where the cupola area is closest to the parking lot, there are windows on the parking lot side. On the south elevation, those are instead of windows, they're vents. They can't really be seen from the far side of the building because of the roof line and how far back this is set from the other street. So those are actually vents to help to ventilate and air and condition the space so that air can circulate and keep the equipment cool. So on the bottom left is the existing facility, and on the top right is a proposed photo simulation of what it will look like when it's built. So the project site, as I said, is commercial. To the north is linkage, meaning the 101 freeway. To the south is some research and development property, limited manufacturing and light manufacturing, which actually has the outlets and the old Ventura Star building. To the west is commercial, which is the Edwards Theater. And then to the east is a commercial research and development zone and commercial plan development, limited manufacturing, which is currently vacant land, and the outlets. And from this facility, the closest residential would be 1,168 feet away to the east, which is the mobile home park. So the applicant provided an EME report, and they gave the emissions at 4 different levels. So actually, if you were standing on the sloped roof directly next to the cupola, is where you would actually have emissions that far exceed the FCC's allowable, but it's in areas where it's inaccessible to the public and would most likely be inaccessible to anybody other than maybe a roofer or something that's up there trying to re-roof the building. So if you are standing right next to the antennas, it's about 2,000% of the FCC's allowable. It falls off quickly within about 10, 15 feet to less than 100% of the FCC's allowable. If you're actually just standing on the roof around the cupola, you are actually less than what the FCC permitted is, which is about 3%, is what you're actually going to be getting at on the roof level. At the main roof level, you'll also be getting nothing, and then at ground level, you'll be exposed to absolutely no emissions. So this is, again, it's a Dish Network site, so they're new to the Camarillo area, and they've been trying to build out. This is how far this site will actually reach with just the individual site itself. So this is going to cover a very large chunk of the hills to the north of Camarillo and then out into the Oxnard Plain. When you go and you mix it with all the other sites that are going to be building in the area, we're going to get pretty decent dish coverage throughout from this site, as well as the other sites that are being proposed in the Camarillo area. So the project was reviewed in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, as well as the city's environmental guidelines, and it's been determined that this is exempt as a Class 3 exemption for new construction or conversion of small structures. So no further review is necessary. So staff recommends that you find the project categorically exempt, and that you adopt a resolution approving CUP 421 subject to the recommended conditions of approval, and the action of the Planning Commission is final unless appealed within 10 days. And that ends my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, this might be more for the applicant, but in looking at the emissions report, the emissions for those who would be maintaining this facility are over 400% of the allowable standard. When someone goes up there to maintain the facility, is the whole thing turned off, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I should have mentioned that, at the roof hatch to get onto the building, there will be, of course, notices to notify anybody that they're going into an area where they could get a possible exposure. And then as they get closer and they get to the cupola, there will also be additional notifications so that anybody who goes up there, whether they're going to maintain the specific site or just going to fix some tiles or an HVAC system, they're going to know that the wireless facility is there. So there'll be warning labels all over the place. But when it comes to actual maintenance of the facility itself, they only get visited about once a month, and they do a lockout tag out for it.
I'm sorry, what was it last? part?
Lockout tag out. So basically the facility's powered down, they do their inspections, check their wiring, and then they turn the system back on.
All right,
So it's a temporary shutdown.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, I had kind of a follow-up on Tom's. So if a roofer or somebody goes up there, it's got all the warning signs, but is there a number they can call to have it disconnected if they're working up there? Or
Yeah, so on the notification sign at the roof hatch, there's an actual number for Dish Wireless that they can call and actually have them shut the site down if they need to get up there.
And they can do that remotely, or they have to come out?
They can do it remotely.
Okay. And so I would assume that's kind of a common thing, that if they're working, and then they can get a hold of somebody right away and be able to get up and do their roofing repairs or whatever.
Yeah, it is common, but again, unless they're actually climbing up onto the lower level of the cupola itself, there's really no exposure whatsoever. It's below the allowable limit for occupational employees.
Okay, thank you.
So if there was, since it's a row of buildings that are all attached, if somebody was working on top of the roof on other sections of that, there wouldn't be any danger to them then? They would be like below the cupola and far enough out?
Absolutely. So they, again, about 20 feet out from the actual antennas themselves, the emissions falls off to the point where it's well below the FCC limits.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to, because I don't think there's tall enough spaces on the roof in between each, like, commercial unit area.
And even if there was one, if it's not within 20 feet,
Still
they're not,
okay.
they're still going to be fine.
Okay,
But no, there aren't any that close.
okay. Any other questions of staff? No. Then we can open a public hearing. And do we have any comments from the applicant? No speaker cards.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Jerry Ambrose. I'm here on behalf of DISH. I actually don't have anything to add to Paul's presentation, just here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. I don't have any.
No?
No.
Well, I know for me, I'm happy to see that this is making the central cupola taller, because it bothered me symmetry-wise, when we made the one on the end
By
taller.
itself out there on the edge.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And to me, this one is the central point, so now it's going to look right.
Okay.
Sorry, but I couldn't resist, I had to comment on that one, because it satisfied my visual looks. But, yeah, I don't have any other questions. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Then we can close the public hearing. Any comments? Commissioner comments?
Call for resolution if you're ready.
Architectural review.
Oh,
Oh,
I forgot, I did write it down, sorry. Can we have the architectural report?
Yes, Paul gave a nice presentation on that, and it just basically adds the cupola to the existing facility will be identical colors to us. We felt that it actually adds to the architectural appearance along the lines of what you just said. So meets the design guidelines of the general plan, and so we recommend to the Planning Commission approval of the architectural component.
Thank you.
thank you. Now I'd call for resolution.
Okay.
Resolution number PC 2023-16, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo approving a request for a conditional use permit, CUP 421, for the construction of a stealth wireless communications facility located at 740 Ventura Boulevard in the commercial plan development zone.
Move that we waive further reading and vote to adopt.
Please vote. And that passes. Thank you. With that, we will go to item F, recommendation of a proposed zoning ordinance amendment to the Camarillo Municipal Code regarding self-storage. Can we have a staff report, please?
Yes, this presentation will be made by Brett McMahon, our planning intern. This is his big debut, first time in front of a planning commission. So
Welcome.
We're excited to give him this opportunity.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Brett McMahon, and tonight I'll be presenting the staff report for the proposed zoning ordinance amendment regarding self-storage facilities. Beginning with some background, back in October of 2021, the Camarillo City Council passed a urgency ordinance which prohibited any new self-storage uses in the LM and M1 zones for a period of 45 days. And subsequently, before the expiration of that 45-day period in November 2021, the City Council passed an extension ordinance which extends that moratorium through September of this year. Next, staff researched the existing extent of self-storage facilities in Camarillo and found that self-storage is currently a permitted use in 4 zones in the city. These zones are the Service Commercial Zone, abbreviated SC, the Limited Manufacturing Zone, abbreviated LM, the Light Manufacturing Zone, abbreviated M1, and the General Manufacturing Zone, abbreviated M2. Staff also found that we currently have 12 existing facilities spread throughout the city. Just continuing on here with staff's findings, staff also found that 75% of these facilities are located in the LM and M1 zones, and that self-storage facilities are clustered by the 101 freeway, and that the average size of these facilities are 3.3 acres. And we also identified that the U.S. average number of employees per self-storage facility is only 3.5 employees per facility. And then next here you can see where all of our self-storage facilities are located, and you can clearly see that there's a cluster along the 101 freeway. All right. Next, staff conducted a case study on two of the more recently approved self-storage facilities in Camarillo, which are Trojan Storage, which was approved in January of 2021. This facility is located on a 4.25 acre site by the 101 freeway, and is also set to only employ 2 to 3 employees when completed. You can see here in this image just what Trojan Storage currently looks like while under construction. The next facility staff looked at was Secure Space, which just so happens to be located right next door to Trojan Storage. This was a former office building that was converted in multiple stages into a self-storage facility. This is on a 9.2 acre site, and this building did have the capacity as an office building to employ 615 people and has a 566 space parking lot to meet this capacity. And this facility only employs 3 people at this time. And you can see here in this image just how large of a facility that Secure Space is. All right, moving into the comparison of self-storage to city objectives, staff compared the self-storage use to a number of different city goals and objectives, and we found inconsistency with the general plan land use element because the land use element indicates that industrial zones are meant for industrial parks that provide employment and broaden the city's economic base. We also found inconsistency with the economic development strategic plan because that plan recommends focusing on several target industries, which include things like hospitality, retail, advanced manufacturing, biotechnologies, and several others, which are all permitted uses in the LM and M1 zones. And another area we found inconsistency in is the intentions of the LM and M1 zones, because the LM zone is intended to provide sufficient land for job creation through industrial parks, as mentioned in the general plan land use element. And the M1 zone is meant to provide employment opportunities, contribute to economic growth, and help facilitate jobs to housing balance. All right. The next thing staff checked in their research is staff checked with other Ventura County cities on their strategies for handling the self-storage development trend, and found that Thousand Oaks this past October passed a self-storage zoning ordinance amendment that included measures such as putting a 2-acre maximum parcel size on self-storage facilities. They regulate that new facilities with street frontage have a mixed-use component facing the street. And then they continue on with Thousand Oaks. They also prohibit new self-storage facilities from being within 1,000 feet of their freeways and 500 feet of all arterial roads. And then they also restrict self-storage uses to only their industrial park and light manufacturing zones, and remove them from the couple of other zones that they were permitted in. And then staff also checked with the cities of Ventura, Oxnard, Moore Park, and Simi Valley, and they stated that they did not have any plans on amending any of their current self-storage regulations. All right. Another area staff researched was how this ordinance would affect the non-conforming uses that these facilities would fall under. Just to provide a quick definition of what a non-conforming use is, a non-conforming use is a land use that is no longer permitted in the zone it resides, but existed before the use was prohibited. Staff found that under the current non-conforming use standards in the municipal code, that 75% of self-storage facilities would have to close within the next 5 years. However, the proposed ordinance allows existing self-storage to remain in use, however, they may not be expanded. Going into staff's proposal of what's going to be in the ZOA, staff recommends including in the ordinance definition for self-storage facilities, removing self-storage as permitted use in the LM and M1 zones, listing self-storage as an expressly prohibited use in the LM and M1 zones, adding clarifying language indicating self-storage as permitted use in the SC and M2 zones. And then lastly, we want to add that we want to allow existing self-storage facilities to remain in use. However, they may not be expanded. Staff also presented their proposal to the Economic Development and Land Use Committee. We presented this ordinance to them back in April, and we received favorable support to move forward with the ordinance. Staff also finds the proposed ordinance is exempt from CEQA under these categories. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending approval to the City Council of a proposed zoning ordinance amending the Camarillo Municipal Code regarding self-storage facilities. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Great job. No, it seems very reasonable that we would want to limit the kind of industry that really brings nothing positive to the city with respect to economic climate. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, nice job, Brett. What do I have? Go ahead, Dave. I had a question that left my head.
Also, nice job, Brett. Good.
Thank you.
Too bad that David made you nervous by pointing out that was the first time. Yeah. I was confused by one thing on one of the slides where they talked about 75% would have to close within 5 years, and I thought that was inconsistent with saying that they would be grandfathered in. Am I talking about two different things?
No, those are actually, they're going to be directly tied, so we wanted to highlight that if we did not include the provision that they're going to be grandfathered in and granted an exemption to that clause, that 75% would have had to close if not for that clause.
Okay. So none of them that exist now would have to shut down, right? Is that clear? I'm still
Yes.
confused on that. Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, I thought of what I had. Of the 9 facilities that will become legal nonconforming if this passes, have you heard from any of those business owners about this proposal?
As far as I know, I've not heard any direct contact from any of those entities.
Okay.
Were all of those given notice on this ordinance, or just?
No, we didn't send out notices directly to those facilities.
With this, it says for as long as they're utilizing them as storage facilities, they would get to stay as storage facilities. What happens if there's a transfer? Can they transfer them and still keep them as a storage facility? Transfer ownership.
Yes, under ownership changes, they can. They just couldn't do any modifications or expansions to the facilities.
So it wouldn't prevent them from going on a different ownership. I didn't think that I read that in the report, so just wanted to clarify. Any other questions of staff?
No.
Okay. Then I can open public hearing. Do we have any comments at all, any cards? Or does applicant care to, no applicant? Okay, and we'll close public hearings. Comments from staff, comments from commissioners.
Just my previously stated comment that I think it's wise that we limit the growth of this industry.
Yeah, I'm with Rob on that. The economics seem to show that especially just 3 or 4 jobs per large facility, it makes sense that the city has looked into this and come up with a solution that won't hurt any of the current facility owners, and yet puts a curb on what seems to be a rapidly growing industry. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I thought the city was pretty perceptive to recognize that was happening and putting a moratorium on them, because I think there's a high demand for storage facilities everywhere, but it makes sense to kind of control them because the industrial park's intent. So whoever noticed that and stopped that, I commend them, because I think this is a real good ordinance and good thing for the future.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be grandfathering in a lot more of them, I think, so.
Well, and for me, when I look at the two, the Trojan and that's going in right next to the other one, and all the land that they utilize, in that parking lot on the first, is it secure storage, the first one? That parking lot is huge. And I keep thinking, why don't they at least make a fenced-in park that would be secure for motorhome parking or, something, RV vehicle parking. And they did have 3 or 4 RVs in that parking lot today, but there's no secure wall around them or anything, so. But yeah, I look at that and how much space that takes versus how many jobs we could have or what we could do. So I think there's a definite need for this, and then it's going to help develop other lands for better economic use, so I'm all in favor of it. And
Beverly, I would just like to let you know that we actually, when we did the secure space, it was a modification, so it didn't need to come to Planning Commission, but they actually have been authorized to convert most of that parking lot into RV storage as well. So
Okay.
there will be a wall. They'll actually probably be getting a grading permit within the next month or so to actually start grading that, putting a wall around it, putting in some shade covers, and adding RV storage and other vehicle storage in that space.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it will get used.
When they're putting in this shade coverage, and I know the shade coverage that's going in at the Trojan over where they'll have RV parking and stuff, are they putting solar on top of those, do you know?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I didn't have any other questions.
I think
Okay.
we're ready to have a resolution.
Resolution number PC 2023-17, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo recommending approval to the City Council of an ordinance amending the Camarillo Municipal Code regarding self-storage facilities.
Make a motion to waive further reading and vote for adoption.
I'll second that.
Please vote. And that is unanimous. Thank you. So with that, we will move on to item G, our CUP 400, our Neal Road mixed-use project.
James Fowler, our senior planner, will be making this presentation.
Thank you.
Just one moment. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you're all doing well tonight. So tonight I'll be bringing back to you the our Neal Road mixed-use project, and this time the actual CUP. So with that, we'll begin. This will be some reiteration for you all, but a little bit of background. So on June 20th, 2017, the city acquired the property with the ultimate purpose of developing a mixed-use affordable housing project. The site was acquired with the legacy redevelopment funds from the Low and Moderate Income Housing Asset Fund. And on January 24th, 2018, the City Council approved a professional services agreement with RRM Design Group for the conceptual design of what you'll see tonight. So it's been a long time coming. On October 2nd, 2019, the city received the first submittal from RRM. There were some needed corrections. Again, on July 30th, 2020, we received another submittal. Again, we needed corrections, and then we ultimately found the project submittal to be complete February 2nd, 2022. So you can see, just because it's a city project, we didn't go easy on it. The City Council approved the general plan amendment, change of zone, and negative declaration for the project April 12th, 2023, which kind of teed up this meeting. Oh, there we go. So the Arneal Road mixed-use project under CUP 400, it's a mixed-use development. So it's 9 multifamily residential units and 500 square feet of commercial space in 2 buildings. We've already done the environmental assessment on this project under the negative declaration, which you saw. And so that was approved by the city council. That's why we've already approved the environmental. We don't have to worry about that tonight. And there was no significant impact. So it's located north of the 101 freeway on the east side of Arneal Road, just south of the Jiffy Lube, just north of the Breakmasters there. The current general plan land use designation after the general plan amendment is commercial mixed use. The zoning designation is village commercial mixed use. It's flanked on the north and south by commercial plan development and with a general plan land use designation. To the east, it's residential, medium density residential, and then to the west, we have more commercial. So this is consistent with the general plan, community goals, and economic development strategic plan, especially after we changed the zoning and general plan land use designation to make it fit. So it certainly does now. The project was actually accounted for in our housing element as a site where we said units were going to be created. And then we also commit to the entitlement of the project in our housing element under Program 18 of the housing element. And we actually said that we'd do that in June 2023 or by June 2023. So we're going to hopefully make it. So the proposed project will finish off the existing sidewalk, which you'll hope, would be nice. The proposed project exceeds parking requirements. 20 spaces are provided. It's actually within half a mile of the Metrolink station. Technically, no parking is required, but even under the old rules before that law came out, it would have meant parking. So there's sufficient parking. We can see the proposed elevations there. It's a nice Spanish mission style. It adheres to the Heritage Zone standards. And the mixed-use building fronting Arneal, it's a 2-story building. It includes a commercial space on the bottom and a community space for project residents. And then there's 2 one-bedroom residential units on the second floor. And the 2-story back building would provide 2 2-bedroom units and 5 one-bedroom units. So tonight's suggested action is to adopt a resolution approving CUP 400 subject to the recommended conditions of approval. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
No questions. I'll reserve for the comments.
Yeah, just one quick one. On the sidewalks fronting Arneal, is it 10 feet on either side? So the 10-foot widening of the sidewalk will actually match up with the sidewalk on both sides of it?
Oh, on the other side of the street, you mean?
No, on the project side of the street.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes. Yes,
Okay,
would.
it looks like it's going to now match. It'll be a continuous 10-foot through. Okay,
Yes.
that's it. Thanks.
I don't have any questions.
Can you tell me, for the residential common area, what type of uses that would have?
So it's like a rec room. It's going to be a fairly modest rec room. In terms of the uses, it would somewhat be up to the desire of the residents in terms of what they did there, but you might have, I don't know, a pool table or a little foosball table, something pretty modest in there. It's a fairly small space, so nothing too extravagant.
Okay. And they don't have rooms for like washing machines in these apartments, or will
No.
they have to be going to a laundromat somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay. As far as the parking, I am glad to see the parking, especially since we have a commercial space downstairs, because you're going to hopefully have either customers or employees that need parking spaces. And I'm sure that at least some of the tenants will have vehicles also.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we were able to put that in. And I don't think I have any other questions.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And do we have anybody here for the applicant or for other cards? Okay, so no public hearing. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing, and I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you. So with that, then we can go, oh, first of all, can we have the architectural review?
Yes, Mr. Fowler gave a nice presentation of the architecture for both the commercial and residential components. It meets the guidelines of the heritage zone. It's Spanish architecture, mission style. You can see the schematics in the staff report, and they're also on the right side over there on the wall. But beyond meeting the guidelines, they look beautiful. It's not a project that was thrown together. A lot of thought went into it. There's a lot of architectural relief in all of the buildings, so we were impressed with that, and we could easily recommend approval to the Planning Commission of the architecture for this proposal.
Thank you. So with that, then, any other comments? Closing comments?
I just have one comment. When this came to us before, there actually were some comments from the public about some concerns about congestion and children playing, and on further reflection, there's only two-bedroom units here, and the rest are all one-bedroom units. I don't see a large influx of dozens of children running about and getting into mischief or what have you. Based on the size of it and the size of the apartments, I think we're likely to see much more modest-sized families, maybe older residents in the one bedroom. So I think the impact on the community with respect to children and not having an outlet to play is very muted, given the nature of the housing and the size. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I'd given that some additional thought in it, because it kind of concerned me, but as I really, like I said, on reflection, I just don't see it as a real issue moving forward. So that would be my comment.
I think all of us were concerned, with kids running around in that neighborhood, even teenagers. But I understand that's not, really going to be an issue. So, especially with was this very low income on this one? Yeah, with the very low income, so I think that will work out well. Any other comments? Then we can move to resolution.
Resolution number PC 2023-18, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo approving conditional use permit CUP 400 for the Arneal Road 9-unit mixed-use development project.
Make a motion to waive further reading and vote for adoption.
I'll second.
Please vote. And that is also unanimous. So that concludes our business items for this evening. We can go on to director's comments.
So I just have two quick items. Right now, we do not have any items tracking for the June 20th Planning Commission meeting, but we do have items tracking in July 18th. So.
Okay. Any additional comments from the commission?
I just had one admission, I was a little asleep at the switch. I thought we were going to do the capital improvement, but that was on the consent calendar. I was going to almost say, hey, we skipped that one. And so anyway, that's fine. That's great. Thank you.
So, well, with that then, the meeting is adjourned.